everyone. Welcome to another episode of Help with Natalie Cuomo. I am so beyond excited for today's guest, chef and Food Network star Amanda Freitag. How are you?
The crowd goes wild. I'm great. How are you?
I am so excited that you're here.
It's really cool to be here. I love your setup.
Thank you.
Very
and
cozy.
It's been upgraded.
It's been Freitag upgraded.
I love it. We've got your cookbook and then the surprise of cocktails and spices.
There's only one thing missing. I have an apron as well, but that's a collaboration with a charity. So
that's cool.
You have to check it out.
I will. That's so fun.
I know I can shamelessly plug all my stuff while I'm here, but
Please.
I won't.
I have been watching you on Chopped for... You don't even understand. I mean, I'm sure people
since
say
you were
this to
a child
all the time, but I mean, that is like... Yeah.
It's iconic now. It's really wild because we're part of like pop culture.
Yeah.
There'll be references that will refer to Chopped and I'm like, is that really happening? Like, is that real? Like, it's still to me sort of surreal that we've been on so long and we're so popular and that people, just everybody, almost everybody knows the show in some way, shape, or form. So it's been a wonderful ride.
Yeah. And I was thinking about, like, before we even get into anything, like, what a gift it is that you guys get to do that at the end of every episode. You get to change someone's life. Like,
it is unreal what the power of Chopped has, even if somebody just appears on the show, even if they don't win.
Right.
It is very influential to their careers or whatever path they want to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Thank you for just being on the show, being amazing. I just want
you.
to get that in there because, yeah, you're
I'm
amazing.
the nice judge. I'm the emotional judge. I don't cry anymore because I'm dead inside, but I used to cry like the first 5 years. I was the crier. And that was TV gold, tears just coming down.
What would make you cry the most?
I think just when chefs would talk about their backstory, or they would talk about a family member that was inspiring them and that family member wasn't here anymore, or just, things that people do that they end up revealing at the end, like when we had on lunch ladies who were the cafeteria chefs. We ended up calling them school chefs, and the things that they would do to feed these kids who had no food on the weekends.
Right.
Like, you find out how amazing humans really are. So I love to find the little nugget of good in people, and then it usually touches my heart. I'm not the only one who's cried. I'm not going to call anybody out, Mark Murphy, but there's been some tears. It's I think when you go in that pressure cooker, so much emotion comes out.
Oh my God. I totally understand. I feel like it's similar with stand-up. Like, your emotions just get heightened around a show when something doesn't go right.
Yes.
Because there's so many factors. You're traveling. You haven't met anyone before. So you're expecting all of these things to be set up for your show, and they're not. So you're just like,
the expectations. It's all about the expectations, and it's the adrenaline. But if you're anything like me, and I think you are, we like kind of live for that.
Yes.
We live for that adrenaline rush, and then we want it again and again and again. So chefs are very much the same that way.
Yeah. So I was listening to an interview that you did, and correct me if I'm wrong. So is it true that you originally turned down when you were asked to do Iron Chef?
Oh, yes. Yep, classic story. I was this chef at a restaurant called the Harrison downtown, and I don't know if you know much about restaurants. Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
I worked as a server a bunch, yeah.
Okay, so typically, especially in New York, there's like a tiny chef office, usually under the stairs, in the basement, this little like hole in the wall where chefs do their administrative work. Not a lot of space left over for chefs to do that. And I remember getting a phone call down to the chef's office, and it was somebody from the Food Network, must have been a casting person, and they called and they said, hey, we're calling from the Food Network. We'd like you to compete on Iron Chef. And I was like, oh, cool. I was like, no, thanks. And then, this was at the time where restaurants were starting to have public relations attached to the restaurant. So we could get our names out there. It's a very competitive industry. And not like 5 minutes later did Jesse Gerstein, our public relations representative, call me, and he's like, hey, did you just get a call from the Food Network to do Iron Chef? And I was like, yeah. And he said, did you say no? And I was like, yeah, I don't do that. I don't make caramel cages and frozen ketchup bombs. Like, that's not the way I cook. And he was like, okay, listen. He's like, this would be really great for the restaurant, great for you. It's great exposure. He's like, I really think you should do it. And I was like, roar. And so I said, okay. And it was the very first thing I ever did on Food Network.
Wow.
And I went up against Bobby Flay. So it was intense, very intense. First time I ever competed one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so restaurants are competitive as a whole, right? In your building, as what you do, you compete against each other.
Right.
But never like one-on-one. And I didn't think I was that kind of – I never did competitive sports. I just wasn't that kind of person.
Yeah.
And I was. I realized I was. I was like, oh, shit, I want this.
Yeah.
I want to win. I want to do well. And there were so many crazy things leading up to that day. You know, I don't know. Did you watch Iron Chef? Like, were you a avid viewer?
I was more of a Chopped viewer.
Yeah.
Like, I'm obsessed with Chopped. I've seen a few episodes of Iron Chef.
Yeah. Well, to clarify for Chopped, nobody knows anything about what's in the basket. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. For Iron Chef, what you would get was 3 possible options of what it would be.
Oh.
So that you could develop menus.
Okay.
So you could practice. So we actually practiced. My sous chef at the restaurant and then my sous chef who had her own restaurant and would come in and we'd practice. And the night before, my sous chef got really sick. So again, naive. I called the Food Network. I was like, hey, my sous chef's real sick. Like, can we just reschedule? They were like, nope. What do you mean? Like, we are in production. I learned a lot about production after that. You have to replace that person. And so I had to scramble and find somebody the night before to fill in.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a real challenge. So,
oh, my God.
yeah. That was a learning lesson. We also got crab, and the person who filled in was allergic to crab.
No.
Yes. And the only thing we could assign him to do, though, was to clean the crab because my other sous chef and I knew how to make the sauces, the dishes, the nuances, you know.
Yeah.
He hadn't practiced with us, so he had no idea. So he double gloved it and cleaned crab. It was...
Took a Benadryl.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Took a Benny and chilled out.
That's so bad.
Anyway, so it was the start of a wonderful relationship with the Food Network.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like there are just so many stories of like little things that happen like that because people don't realize that like success is not just a straight line.
We can talk about that all day.
Yeah.
Which I would, because especially in our industry, chefs are so glamorized now.
Yeah.
And young chefs have said to me, how do I get a seat at the judges' table? Like, I want to be on Chopped. How do I do that?
Right.
Well, first you need 20-something years of chef experience.
Yeah.
So check that off your list. And then come back and see. You know, like you need that. You have to have experience to get to where you're going. It doesn't happen overnight, you know, and even if it does, maybe to some people it does, okay? A few rare beings that happens to. I think they're missing out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade any of that experience for anything. You know, I gained so much through all of it, through the restaurants, through the failures, through the successes, through everything on Food Network, through everything outside of that, you know. So I think there's something to be said for that jagged line to success.
Yeah.
There is no straight line.
I love that.
And you shouldn't want one.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone's so impatient about their success, but the time that it takes makes you the artist that you are.
It's so true.
So I feel like also the way on Chopped that you're able to pinpoint like specific flavors, specific things that everyone is doing, like that knowledge only comes with years and years and years. Like that's not just something you can pick up overnight.
It's so true. And I see it in younger chefs who come as guests and judge with us. And I love seeing different perspectives, and I listen to what they say, and it's definitely a younger perspective. It doesn't come from maybe, you know, the French Escoffier style training, and there's uniqueness in that, and there's youth, which is wonderful, but then there's also pulling from experience, like you were saying, or travel. You know, chefs like to travel the world to see the different spices, flavors, cultures, how food is put together, how food is put on a plate. And when you understand that, then you see a chef who's maybe coming from a different part of the world and you understand their perspective.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know it or have experienced it before, you might not recognize what they're doing.
Right.
You might not give them the credit because you're like, well, this is a bowl of, messy noodles. And it's like, well, this is what you have every day in, Bangkok, right? So it's traditional.
Right. That
you have to
traveling
know
is
that.
so important.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder how you could apply that to other. I had Steven Cusato on. He has like a big YouTube channel, and he also is talking about the importance of traveling as a chef. And it's just interesting with stand-up, it's not talked about as much, but I guess it's just that life experience. And I do feel like when you travel in America, like performing for different crowds, not just New York City, LA, these really liberal places, you need to be able to make everyone laugh and make everyone
That's right.
understand each other.
And that must be really difficult because you can't hold back.
Right.
You don't want to hold back. But I also think you learn about people, right? What does make people laugh? What makes people happy with a plate of food? Like, how is it different with the upbringing? If they grew up in Ohio or if they grew up in New Jersey or in California, like it is different. But the thing that also gives me comfort is that kind of across the world, people are the same. Like people want the same things. People need the same things. People need to laugh. People need good food, and they just want that perk. You know what I mean? That little treat. What we're giving them is a treat. When they go to see you, it's a treat. When they're eating my food, it's a treat. Like, it's not essential. We're not brain surgeons, right? So it's something that
it's a special part of the day.
Right. Yes. But it's important. I think you have to have it. But people across the world are pretty similar. But it's good to get to know the little nuances.
When did you know that food was your, like, the form of self-expression that mattered to you?
That's a great question. So I was kind of a round kid. I was very round. I loved to eat. And both my parents worked, so we were latchkey kids. And my mom's guilt was, expressed in the way of feeding us, right? So she would leave tons of snacks and food and things for us to eat after school. So I would just load it up, and I would eat, and I loved sweet, salty. Yeah. I love all sorts of food. In my family, if you're happy, you eat. If you're tired, you should eat something. If you're sick, maybe you should eat something. If you're sad, let's eat. Like everything was food, 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 food. And then I started working in a restaurant when I was 15. And my brother was working at that restaurant. I have two older brothers, but my middle brother and I worked at the same restaurant together. And I started in the front of the house, and I loved it. I loved the chaos.
Yeah.
I loved what could happen from start to finish. Good night, bad night. And then I started to peek into the kitchen, and I was fascinated by what was going on in there. And I was an avid TV watcher, just TV in general, but I would also watch food TV. I would watch anything from Julia to Yan Can Cook to The Galloping Gourmet. Like, these were reruns when I was a kid even. And then I would watch something called Great Chefs of Europe, which was a beautiful show that was narrated. The chefs, most of them didn't speak English, and I was fascinated with it. And then one of my dad's favorite movies that he introduced me to was something called Who's Killing the Great Chefs of Europe, which is an amazing movie. If you've never seen it, it's hard to find, but it's George Segal, Jacqueline Bisset, and it's this whole sort of quirky murder mystery, and every chef dies by their specialty.
Oh my God, that sounds fun.
I don't know why, but it was a peek inside. Like, there was I had never really seen industrial kitchens. I'd never really seen like chefs, and like there was a sexiness to it. Yeah. There was a playfulness to it. There was it was all about European chefs, and that was very prestigious.
Right.
American chefs at the time when I was interested is very blue collar. It wasn't like it was in Europe. So I fell in love with it. And I luckily had a really amazing home economics teacher. For all of you listeners out there, home economics was a class that most of my fellow students would sleep in. And it was anything from learning how to cook. So it was ironing. It was crazy. Nobody does home
fun
ec
class
anymore. It was great. I loved it. I cooked. I showed up. I was like one of the few students that showed up to home ec, and my teacher, she realized that I was interested, and I didn't want to go to like traditional college. So she said, there's culinary school. And back in the day, not a lot of people were going to culinary school. And she introduced me to it. And so I went to the Culinary Institute of America, and it was Mecca of chefs. It was wonderful.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yes. And it was a very unique time because I was the youngest one there, and I had to work a year before being accepted.
Oh, interesting.
Now you can just go. And all of the other students were in the industry already or career changers, older than I was, from all over the country, all over the world. And so that experience alone, just being in class with them, was otherworldly. It was I was plucked out of my suburban home in New Jersey and brought into this whole other world.
What do you think is the best advice you ever received?
Oh my God. Okay. This actually goes back to Iron Chef. Okay. And my dad, it's in the front of the book. So my dad was, and Mom, don't be upset. My dad was really the only one who got that I wanted to do this thing.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a highly regarded career really in America. It was definitely not for females at the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense to a lot of people in my world. But my dad got it. So he was always really supportive. And he loved to bake, but he was a systems analyst. He was a computer guy. So at the time, Iron Chef America, you could have an audience. There was an audience. So my parents came. And that day, I was kind of in the arena, like, you were allowed to put your knives out. You were allowed to be in that little section of your kitchen. And I saw my parents walking in. And I was absolutely shaking with nerves. I was really, I'm an anxious person, and I feel like anxiety has driven me through my career. It's actually benefited me a lot of times. But I actually couldn't even hold a knife. Like, I was shaking so much. And he came in and he saw me and he was like, "What's up with you?" And I was like, I don't think I can do this. I'm so nervous. This is just too much. I don't know why I'm here. And he was like, my dad was never minced words. He was like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "Listen to me for a second. You're going to walk out of here. You're going to go to work." Because I was the chef of a restaurant, a really successful restaurant in New York City. And he said, "And you know what you're doing. You have it down. You have all your skills." He said, "Just have fun with this." And the minute he said that, everything changed in my brain. I had no inkling that I could enjoy that. The pressure, you had to perform, and the way it made you feel was like, if you don't do this right, you're awful, you suck, you're not a success, right. Everything that goes through your brain when you're, in that kind of situation. And I was like, oh, fuck, I can just have a good time with this. And I did. And I remember making jokes on air, playing around with Alton Brown, who was the host, kind of razzing Bobby in the kitchen. And they were like, "Who is this girl? Who is she? Like, she's so confident," which I'm really not, like, I'm secretly not. And it just flipped my switch. And I was able to have fun with it. And because of that, I think I got other opportunities on the network because they saw that I was able to go through that competition, kill it, put out amazing dishes, and talk, and laugh, and joke, and smile. Like, I was able to do it all.
Yeah.
And thank goodness he said that to me, because I think I would have probably crashed and burned. I don't know what would have happened that day. And the perspective was so necessary at that moment. And not everything is fun and games, but I do feel like once you really have your skills down, once you know that you can cook your way out of just about anything, why not enjoy it? I'm doing this because I enjoy it, and I think that's the unfortunate part about what's happened now with food TV is that this is not a natural way to cook, right? in 20 minutes, in 30 minutes, under a clock, mystery basket. We talk about that all the time on Chopped. We'll always say, look, we know you're an amazing chef, and this doesn't reflect what you do in your everyday life. Obviously, you know, cooking, if you enjoy cooking, if anybody out there is listening and they enjoy cooking, it's something you do in your kitchen with a glass of wine or while you're listening to music, and it's therapeutic. It's not, oh my God, you have to do this all in 30 minutes and you have to have fun while you're doing it. Oh my God, no, right? So it's changed a lot in our industry that way.
Right.
And I think professional cooking is obviously very different than home cooking. But if you don't enjoy it, why do it? You know, so it really helped me tremendously when he said that. And he's not here anymore. And I wish he could see like how much the industry has changed and how much my career has changed and how I am like trying to really enjoy it through other aspects, through other ways. Like I'm not just chained to a restaurant stove.
Yeah.
And being able to give that back too. Like I think I'm grateful to be at a point in my career where I can give that piece of advice back or radiate that into people who may come and see me, or if I'm doing a cooking class or whatever it may be, like just try and take that scared feeling away when people are in the kitchen. Like fearless, you got to be fearless.
Yes.
That was a Julia Child, you know, mantra. Like just don't be afraid. You know, if a chicken drops on the floor, pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, like don't be afraid. And I think that as a through line through just about anything, can really fuel you in your career, no matter what you do.
Yeah, yeah. I like that a lot. That's really awesome. You got to be fearless.
It's hard to do. And I was just watching a clip from Martha Stewart, like a master class, and it was one of the first things she said about being fearless. And I always thought to myself, like, Martha's such a badass.
Yeah.
I would never imagine her being afraid of anything, being afraid to do anything. And at one point, she must have had some fear or some trepidation about doing something. And now she's, you know, the expert on just about everything. I mean, think about it, just about everything. So I think it's really cool what happens when you push yourself out of those boundaries and through that fear. It doesn't always work, but at least you're having fun.
I love that.
Yes.
Also, like you wouldn't be in that position if you didn't deserve to be there. So
it's true.
Since you deserve to be there, like have fun with it. And that's really awesome advice from your dad. That's really cool.
Yeah, he got it. He knew me well enough to know also what to say, you know, because I think sometimes people's advice is like, you got this, you're good, you always kill it, you always do well. And it's like, what if this is the one time where everything just crashes and burns, you know? And then I had a dear friend of mine who used to manage one of the restaurants where I was a chef, and almost every time there was a big event or a big review or something, I would just be like, I don't think I can do this. This is going to be so messed up. And, you know, my boyfriend would come by at the end of the night and he'd be sitting with us and he'd be like, you're good, it's fine, like Mr. Positive. And she'd say to him, why don't you just tell her she's going to fuck it up this time? Because that's really what she wants to hear. And it'll flip, you know, her mind into being like, no, I won't, you know, like, and sometimes it's better to just be like, well, yeah, this could get really bad.
Right.
You know, this could go wrong. Everybody could get sick from your food, or you could chop your arm off. Who knows what could happen, you know?
Right.
So I think you need to feed it sometimes, feed the demon in the brain, the voices in the head, you know, and be like, well, and then what?
Right. Be like, nothing matters. Let's just go.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
Which is really the only voice that works for me. It's like everybody could say whatever they want to say. Thank you for the praise and the confidence. If I'm not feeling it, you know, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. So I work really well under pressure.
Yeah.
I really do. It's the only way for me, honestly. Like I do a lot of administrative work right now for setting up, you know, the products or events or private gigs or things that I do. and sitting at the computer or having a deadline with a recipe or a photo for social. Listen, I'm going to get it to you, but it's going to be last minute.
Right.
And I'm not the only chef that's like that.
Right.
Because we're used to there's no deadlines in a restaurant. You get an order, you make the food, it goes out. Like
yes.
It's
all
in the
moment.
In the moment. You know, like when you go on stage, you have a certain amount of time. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't get to go back and rewrite, fix. You know, you don't have a whole week to do it. It's that moment, and that's it. And it's now or never. And I feel like we do better under pressure.
Definitely.
And I think I learn a lot about myself. And that's what I say to the top contestants a lot. Like, even if they're really bad and they have a really bad day and they're the first ones out, I just want to know that they learn something about themselves. And so I think for me, my commentary when I eat their food, I'm just trying to tell them something they don't know.
Yeah.
So that they leave there with something more.
Yeah. Something that helps them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, have you ever gone back and like watched a performance of yours and be like, wow, I don't remember saying that or making that face or
totally
or making that gesture?
100%.
Yeah.
And you're just like, ugh.
Yes. And if you're a perfectionist, chefs are perfectionists, they walk up to that judge's table, they know what they've done wrong.
Right.
They're already judging themselves. And so why am I going to just, you know, hammer it into them what they already know? Like, I want to tell them something they don't know.
Yeah.
You know, they made that dish. They're putting it on there last minute, a couple seconds left.
Right.
They didn't get to sit and eat the perfect bite. You know, they didn't get to sit and eat through that dish. When you do that, it's a very different thing. When you take all those elements together and take that bite. So they don't know. So I feel like it's always my duty
to tell
them, you know, and just hopefully I'll give them a good experience.
I like that.
Yeah.
When you say that anxiety has fueled your career in a way that's helped you, what do you mean?
Woo! I think it still happens to me. You know, it's right before anything, right before we go unchopped, right before I have to chop somebody.
Yeah.
I get sweaty palms. I get nervous. I get the leg shake. I think all of my competitions, I would walk into that kitchen thinking, I can't do this. I can't do this, or I need to do this, or how am I going to do this? I just forgot everything. Like the anxiety would just wash over me like a wave.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine now doing those things, those competitions, or even high pressure situations in restaurants, those Saturday night services with 100 people coming in all at the same time, without the anxiety, without the nerves that fueled me through. There's calm in the chaos. Like, I tried to explain this to somebody, and I think that people who work under pressure or have to perform, you don't think of chefs as performing, but when those doors open and the orders first start coming in, it is like a performance. Expediting the cooks to put out the food is like a symphony. You know, and it's like a house of cards. If one thing goes wrong, the whole thing can collapse. And there's chaos in my brain. There's chaos. There's constant thinking. There's multitasking. There's nerves. There's all these things going on. And if it matches on the outside, the chaos, there's calm in it because there's so much focus.
Yeah.
When you're under pressure, you cannot focus on anything else. When you're on stage, you're not thinking about, you know, you got to answer that email. Yes. What are you going to do? You know, you have a podcast guest that just canceled. How am I going to fix it? When am I going to call back that person? You can't think about anything other than what you're doing.
Right.
Laser focus. So I felt like the anxiety drove me to that focus because the fear of failure was the thing that made me laser focused and made me do my craft to perfection, or try to do it to perfection, or make sure everything went the way it was supposed to go, no matter what.
Right.
Literally, if every single cook walked out, if the building was on fire, like I would stand there and continue to make sure that something was going to happen, you know, the responsibility.
Yeah.
So that was my drive always. It still is. It really still is. It's just a little bit different.
I think the high pressure situation causes you to be present in a way, like, because anxiety, like I'm so anxious, and anxiety means like I'm not present a lot of the time because I'm always worried about what's going to go wrong.
Yes.
And so like the high pressure situation of like being on stage or performing or working in a kitchen is like you have to be present. So it's like the only time of the day that you're not anxious.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I think anybody who's listening who does suffer with anxiety can probably relate to that.
Yeah.
Because the anticipation of going on stage or cooking for a big event or speaking in front of people is so much worse than actually doing it.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and that's kind of the definition of anxiety, right? Is like you're worrying about something that's not real.
Yes.
Right? You're creating a scenario. It's future worry.
Yeah.
And in the doing is where the calm comes for me. And so it really has helped me. I know it sounds crazy. And I know that anybody who's going through it right now might think, I just wish I didn't have this anxiety.
Right.
And I wish I didn't. But at the same time, I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm older now and I realize, well, I don't know what I would have been like without it.
Same.
Right?
Yeah. And I think there's a power too in knowing that like failure, like in my experience, like failure on stage, having a bad set is actually better than the anxiety I feel about having a bad set. So it's like that gives you power and that makes you a better performer and that makes it all like comes together in a way. Like you realize that the worst case scenario is not as bad as the anxiety that you deal with before.
It's so true. It really is, because the worst thing that could happen is just never as bad as what you could imagine.
Right.
Or what you put yourself through.
Yeah.
At that moment, you know? And so it's fueled me. I mean, yes, I would like to live without it a little bit.
Right. It would be nice.
Yeah. And I've lost more competitions than I've ever won.
Right.
You know, so yes, I've learned a lot from the failures.
That's normal, I think.
Maybe. I don't know. You know, I've had a lot of people beat me at very crucial moments, you know, and things that could have been career changing, total life changing, career changing moments. And I've lost. Yeah. So there's a lot of, like sliding door moments. Like, what would it have been like in an alternate universe if I had become an Iron Chef, right? If I had beat Alex Guarnaschelli and became an Iron Chef, would that have changed my path in a different way? Right. You know, if I had won like $50,000 on Tournament of Champions, I was 1 point away. Like, what does that change for you? You know, like, or am I fine now? Am I happier without all of that? You know, sometimes maybe you're happier with what you have, you know, and maybe that's why that happens. So it's interesting to think about and reckon and just try and be okay with what you have at this moment, you know, and the reason why you have it. And then ask yourself, what do I really want? Did I really want that? Or was it just because I wanted to win?
Yeah, or because like everyone else said that that's what
you want
matters, and that's what is like what validation is, and that's what means that you're good or worthy.
Right. And is that really it? And that's like, I think that's a lifelong question. You know, I'd love to answer it before I die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's the constant drive of wanting to learn about yourself, about your craft, about, you know, what you want and what that means, you know. And so I look back and I'm like, what would have happened if? I'm like, well, here we are.
Right.
What can I do about it now? Enjoy where I am. So it's a challenge. And I think that's anxiety that speaks also.
Definitely.
Right?
As a person that's like, you've had so many successes and like you've worked in so many restaurants, you've opened restaurants, you've done so much, and like how do you deal with like the bar that keeps changing? Like in my experience, I'll be like, I'm good as long as I get this accomplishment. Then I get this accomplishment and I'm like, I'm not good. I need this accomplishment. Like, does that happen for you? And if it does, like, how do you deal with it? If not, that's fine too.
Oh no, it absolutely happens for me because, you know, as artists, we want to constantly reinvent ourselves.
Right.
And I think our inner critic, our inner guide is pushing us more than ever, you know, and it's all out there, you know, it's in our faces, you know, the compare and despair is social media.
Yeah.
You know, grass is always greener. That person has more followers. This person's doing something. They're viral. How did they do that? You know, if I could do what they do, then I'd have this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, what's next? Maybe I can get ahead of it. Maybe I can figure out what the next thing is and be the one, you know, and why didn't I think of that? You know, and it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Reels, it's YouTube, it's TV, it's food. And I think it's really difficult because, like you said, it's like, can we be okay with what we have?
Yeah.
Do we want more just because we're told we want more? Or because we really want more? Like for me, I want life experiences. And so I do a lot of social media stuff, right? I have my Instagram series, it's Easy AF.
Yeah.
And I didn't know my initials were cool until I met my marketing manager.
Yes.
Kedzie with a D, everybody. Kedzie Teller changed my life because he, first of all, made me believe that I was cool.
You are cool. You're so cool. You have no idea. You're the coolest.
But I never thought of myself that way, you know? And, you know, when somebody believes in you a little tiny bit more than you believe in yourself, it's really life-changing. And he did that for me. And when he listens to this, he's going to cry. It makes me cry. It fueled me. I was like, wow, okay. He just said, people want to see you. And I was like, no, they don't. I can't get my own show on Food Network. Why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? And he was like, just do it yourself. You know, and I think the beauty of all of this, like, platform of social, platform of streaming, the opportunities that we have.
Yeah.
We can just put ourselves out there. We can just express ourselves in any way, shape, or form without any censorship. And it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know? And so I still struggle, though, with, okay, we started out doing these videos because I love to show people how to cook. And I want them to see it's not intimidating at all.
Yeah.
You know? And I've always been a comfort food kind of girl anyway, but, you know, I can cook really high-end food, but I prefer to cook stuff that just people love and want to curl up into. And I get to do that. I get to show people that. And, you know, sure, okay, maybe Food Network doesn't love, you know, that idea, or they don't want to put me on their airwaves, so I'll put it out there myself. And I think it's really great for people to have that expression, but I still feel like we've changed the way we do our videos, right? It used to be a little longer format. Now it's more TikTok-y style, you know? And I'm like, okay, I like this better. It's less of me. It's more of the food. I love doing the voiceover part instead of, you know, talking on camera. It's just, I want to know what catches people's eyes, you know? And I love working with Kedzie because he sees things so differently. He sees things outside of the chef perspective, you know, and he's teaching me, you know, and it's very rare that I get to learn because when you're supposedly an expert in your field, I'm not saying I am, people think you know everything. You know what I mean? And I don't know everything about production.
Right.
I don't know everything about how to make a video, and I'm supposed to. And you're supposed to.
Yeah.
You know, and we're supposed to know how to do it all.
Right.
How are we supposed to know?
Yeah.
Like, is it okay that I'm allowed to say, I don't know?
Right.
I don't know how to be a viral social media star.
Yeah.
Like, how do I do that? I don't know. I have to learn.
Yeah.
And so I'm not afraid to say I don't know how, and thank God there's people like Kedzie out there that is excited to work. He's excited to work with me, and we can laugh at each other. I can laugh at myself and when I'm just doing something so dumb or so, a little bit, I call myself a grandma when it comes to that stuff. Like I can laugh at it and just be like, this is ridiculous. This is all ridiculous, and I'll learn and we'll do better next time. And sure, let's put it out there, even though it may not be perfect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we all want to know what the next thing is. We all want to get 1,000 million followers,
right, Right.
We all want to do that. And I have no idea how to do that. And I want to do that. Why? Right? Like, do we just want to do it because, like we were saying, because that's what we're supposed to be doing?
Right. Like, what comes with that? Like, where's the happiness that comes with that? Is it a paycheck that comes with it? Is it like a validation? Like, what is the thing at the end that I'm looking for at the end of the rainbow? Is there a little leprechaun? Like, I don't know.
Right. I think the why is really important.
Yeah.
Is it just because everybody else is doing it? And I think that's really detrimental to like this next generation or the teenagers who have so much pressure on them to just do it and look like everybody else and be like everybody else and put yourself out there like everybody else. And I think the whole thing about having that platform is being original and unique and not being like everybody else and not looking like everybody else.
Right.
And I think that's a really hard thing, especially for somebody like me. Like, I still struggle with all my body issues, I still struggle with weight and fitness and how I look every day in the mirror. And, I loved being a chef because every single day I would go into the restaurant and I would put on a uniform.
Yeah.
And I never wore makeup. I would wash my face with hand soap, like I didn't learn about any of that stuff until television.
Yeah.
And I loved hiding in the kitchen. When I started working in restaurants, the chef maybe came out of the kitchen every once in a while.
Right.
And then it became where the chef would be coming out of the kitchen more. We want to know that the chef is there. We want to see, who's the chef? Is the chef here tonight? What does the chef look like? Oh, is the chef a man, a woman?
Right.
Wow, how did this mystery person in the back of the kitchen make this? And now all those walls are down.
Right.
And sometimes hiding is beneficial for creativity. Sometimes for me, I need absolute silence to get creative, or I need a quiet time in the kitchen alone. Mm-hmm. To make a new dish or make something, without people asking 1,000 questions or without people watching the creative process.
Right.
Everybody wants the inside baseball about how the creative process is done, but sometimes it has to be done privately, without anybody watching.
Yeah.
And the whole world is watching nowadays.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching everything you do. They want to see everything. And that was where I had a hard time with social media. And that's why I had to ask Kedzie to help me. I got it. I understood that the only way to be successful was because people wanted to see me wake up in the morning and drink a cup of coffee. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want anybody to see me doing that. That's my private time, and I'm ugly in the morning and I am, I don't, I guess people do want to see that, but I never understood that about me. I like watching other people do it. I like seeing, I don't know what Hugh Jackman looks like when he's at the gym and all messy,
Right. But you don't want to make your life a reality TV show. You're an artist.
I don't, know. That's what it is. But that's the hardest part, because I think anybody who's aspiring to be an artist wants to see if they can relate, if they have the same struggles.
Yeah.
So they always want to see it. And I can't tell you how I get to certain points. It could be at 3 a.m. sometimes when I'm just writing shit down or scrolling through TikTok or looking through a cookbook, and all of a sudden I have an idea.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how it happens, you know? And I know I just went off on a tangent, but
No, I think honestly, I mean, I feel like it is the cool thing. The cool thing is that you can make your own show and that you have, you don't need anyone else's permission. I do think that is the cool thing. On the flip side of it.
On the flip side of it, absolutely. But also it's very intimidating because I'm like, does anybody want to watch this? Am I doing this right?
No, we do want to watch it. We do. I want to watch it. Everyone wants to watch it.
Thank you. I was doing it during lockdown, and Kedzie was on like Zoom, and I'd be filming, and I'd run around to the other side of the kitchen and press play, and I would just start to cry and be like, people are dying. What am I doing? And then we started to get feedback like, thank you for doing this. We need something, a break from all this heaviness. We're cooking more than ever.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us something to look at, you know, and even if it's just that 2 minutes of something special, it really meant a lot for people to watch that.
Yeah, it's a happiness. It's something that adds people. There is like that element of like, I'm doing something that feels silly while there's horrible things happening in the world. But like, you need silly, you need happiness.
Yeah.
Like, you need to watch, like, cooking shows are, at least for me, you know, it's funny because Michael Pollan said this in like the Cooked, that little Cooked miniseries he did.
Yes, I love that.
He said that people like watching cooking because it makes them feel like they're being nurtured and taken care of. And I really feel like people love watching cooking, especially people having a fun time. Like, even you just like cooking and talking about like the life experiences you have in like so many kitchens, and like there's so much that you have to say. I feel like it would be like so many people would want to watch it because people don't get to hear your full story yet.
No.
Like, it hasn't been told yet, and you have one. So.
I know. It is a pretty deep story, and I always feel like it doesn't matter anymore because almost all the restaurants that I ever opened or partnered in are not here anymore. Or a lot of the chefs that I talk about, people now don't know who they are, or I'm currently not in a restaurant, so I feel like that is invalid, right? So I feel like people don't care about that, the history. It's really important to me, and it can be really frustrating because so much of what's being blasted as amazing, all these chefs are doing these cool things. I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it, and nobody posted it on Instagram because Instagram wasn't there when I was doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So does that mean it didn't happen? Does that mean it wasn't good? You know, so I struggle with that a lot. I'm like, shit, really? Is that interesting? Yeah, sure. I whipped ricotta too once.
But I think because like when you tell a story, like people care because you care. It's like,
right.
You know, I had an acting teacher once that was like, if it's real to you, it'll be real to them. And I think it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you're telling that story and you're telling everyone like how amazing this chef was, how amazing this restaurant was, and what this experience taught you, like, then that's what it means to everyone that's watching it. And like, you create the story, you create the tradition and the legend of all of these things you experience. And like, yes.
It is a legend because I've been doing it for so long.
Yes, you need to I think that
I'll tell it. Well, maybe you and I will be the only people, and my mom and Kenzie.
You don't even understand. Like, I feel like you're definitely like, we're women, so we never will understand our self-worth. But
it's true.
You seriously are such a rock star, and like your story is amazing. Like, I literally just have I never write notes for people. I have so many things that you've done in my notebook that I don't know.
God.
So I know that you were a busboy first, and then you just were a sous chef. You're a line cook, then a sous chef. Opened a few places. Like, I was driving home with my fiance last night. We like pointed at this place, like, that's for Amanda. Like, that's for like, you're amazing. Like, you really are.
You.
So it's so hard living in this world and like not. But yes.
Speaking of rock stars, we should talk about you, but we should also talk about music because I think music, chefs, comedians, the way we run our lives is very different, and I love music.
Yeah.
And I just think artists in this world that put themselves out there like that are so similar.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll meet people like you that I'm like, she has no idea who I am. And I'll find out that you do. And I'm like, wow. And it's like the late nights. You're watching probably chopped reruns in your hotel room. And it's such a small world. Like,
Yeah.
I love when artists are fans of other artists.
Yes, definitely.
And I think that to me is even more validating.
Yeah.
You know, because we know what we go through
100%.
to get to that moment when you're standing on stage or where you're behind the stove or where you're in front of people teaching them how to cook or whatever it may be. So what kind of music do you listen to while you're cooking?
Well, okay, I know we don't have a lot of time, and I always pull a tarot card, but I'm like, I don't even want to waste.
Let's do tarot.
Okay,
I love tarot.
So we'll do it while. Okay, so my favorite, I've really been loving Sia.
Oh my God, yes.
I love her. Like, will you shuffle the deck?
Of course.
I
love
just
tarot, by the way.
adore her so much. Like, everything. I just we were talking about like the anonymity thing. Like, I do like that she doesn't show her face and she's very like lets her art speak for herself. But her music has like so much emotion in it. I mean, I just I'm going through a hardcore Sia phase right now.
Do you get emotional when you go to live shows?
Yes. Oh, I always cry.
Why? What is that? I do too.
I think they're living their dream.
That's what it is. That's what it is. How crazy is that? But people think that about you or I when they see us.
Yeah.
And to think about that for a second.
But no one cries when they see me on stage.
That's not true. Maybe those hecklers when you take them down.
Yeah,
I love
like...
when you do that. It's my favorite. Did you know that 6 Feet Under is now on Netflix? Do you remember that show, 6 Feet Under? Did you ever watch it?
I didn't, but I've been wanting to watch it now that's on Netflix.
I would say revisited it because Sia's song in the last episode will crush you.
Which song do they use?
You have to watch this.
Okay, I'll watch it.
You have to watch it. It is... It's beautiful.
Now,
it's actually beautiful.
Because my fiance always wants a new show to watch. I always want to watch
6 Feet Under.
Right.
You have to be okay with all like the 90s looks.
No, I love that.
But it is such a meaningful, amazing show.
Okay, I'm going to move the spices for a second.
Move the spices.
All right, we're going to pull. I always do 3. Okay, we've got the Father of Wands. That's good so far. The Star, amazing.
Oh my God.
And
I love this deck. It's
okay,
beautiful.
Good. We're good. Great.
Were you worried?
Yes, I do get worried. I do.
What is that one? The Son of...
So, okay, the Father of Wands and the Son of Swords are actually both people. So they signify like 2 different like people in life. And the swords are like air. The wands are creativity. So we'll look at the book there. The Star, I love this card, and we're also gonna look at the book for that one, just because
that's a beautiful card. I don't want to mess it up. Actually, but I love tarot, and people are gonna think I'm absolutely mental when I say this. Every once in a while, I would say probably every 6 sessions, my therapist will pull tarot cards.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yes, and I love her so much for that, because every once in a while she'll be like, I feel like we should do this right now. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Are we best friends?
Yes. Little transference. Yeah. No big deal.
Okay, so the Star is standing outside in a dark night. You gaze up at the stars and sense glimmers of wonder and hope. Even though you can't find concrete answers to life's many questions up there in the sky, you can't help but feel comforted and renewed. Such is the energy of the Star card. It's not about actions or situations. It's simply about connecting to the part of you that is hopeful and serene. This force will bring light back into your life and infuse you with positivity. A lovely card.
So good.
Isn't that one so nice?
Yes. So good.
Because it kind of talks about like, you know, what are like that idea of like, what are you always chasing? And it's like, then if you just like bring yourself back to like life experiences and connecting to other people and like looking at the stars.
And how small we really are.
Yeah. Yes. It's also my birthday card. Like I have this birthday book of everyone's birthdays, and like everyone has a tarot card in it. Yeah.
I have to get that.
Yes. Yeah. I will. If send me your birthday, I'll send you your page. Okay. So the Son of Swords is this is
When is your birthday?
my birthday's on Sunday, December 17th.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy early birthday.
Thanks. Okay. This is a forceful, determined creature.
Ooh.
He is a man of action, not grace. He can be a woman, though. He pushes forward towards his goal with urgency and determination. To top it off, he's very well educated, making him a force to be reckoned with. Usually he's seeking approval from the patient and just father of swords, who casts quite a shadow onto his son. Working with this stimulating and exhausting young man can prove to be a challenge.
Ooh, I have that. That's a part of me for sure. That is a part of me.
And then Father of Wands is... Okay, charismatic, creative. The Father of Wands is a man of mystique and charisma. Others are drawn to him naturally, and he welcomes them with an open and loving heart. Usually you'll find him involved in the healing arts, as he's deeply compassionate and in tune with life and nature. He's able to hold steady and still during conflict. Wow. I feel like these are all elements that are present.
Good and very,
nice,
very
cards.
present. Oh my God. The hippy dippy side of me that we didn't get to talk about is I love wellness and food as medicine.
Yes.
And I am definitely everybody's rock. If somebody needs something to bounce off of somebody, I'm the person they call.
I love that.
Yeah. So there it is.
The Father of Wands.
Love it.
And I'm excited that I'm really excited the names of these spices. Green Queen, Jersey Italian. These are amazing.
Yeah, I hope you like them. They're really fun.
I can't wait.
Chico Adobo is one of my favorites, although Jersey Italian makes the best vinaigrette, like the pizza salad vinaigrette. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Put red wine vinegar, that spice, and some olive oil, and you're there.
Oh my God. I can't wait. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for being
here.
This
was great. It was so good to talk to you.
Yeah,
I feel like this was therapy for me.
Me too.
I laughed. I cried. It was everything.
Yes. Where can people find you?
Chef Amanda F on Instagram and TikTok. AmandaFreitag.com. You can buy the spices, the book, the apron, the cocktails, and of course, on Chopped on Tuesday nights.
Yes. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.